Wait, do not scroll away yet, because something unusual has already begun moving behind the scenes, and you can feel it even now. There is a reason your spirit feels restless tonight. A reason your thoughts keep returning to the same unanswered feeling. Someone spoke your name recently in a room you have never entered, and the energy in that room changed the moment they did. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But deeply. Your soulmate's family just had a serious conversation about you. And what makes this moment extraordinary is that not everyone in that conversation expected to feel what they felt. Some entered the room with questions. Some carried caution. Some stayed silent at first, listening carefully, watching the expressions around them. Yet little by little, something shifted. Because your presence, even from a distance, has started creating an effect no one can ignore anymore. Pause here for a second and think about this. How powerful must a connection be for people you have never fully met to sit together and discuss your future as though your arrival is already changing their lives? That is what is unfolding. One person at that table spoke first. Calm voice. Careful tone. They mentioned the way your soulmate changes whenever your name appears. The sudden smile. The quieter breathing. The unusual peace. And another person noticed something else. Your soulmate has been thinking ahead lately. Planning differently. Looking at life as though someone important is about to become part of it. That someone is you. But wait. The conversation became even more emotional after a long silence filled the room. Because one family member asked a question nobody expected. What is it about this person that feels so different? And for a moment, nobody answered. Because some connections cannot be explained logically. They are felt before they are understood. Your energy entered their conversations long before your footsteps ever entered their home. Strange, isn't it? Yet somewhere deep inside, you already sensed this shift coming. Stay with this message a little longer, because the next part matters more than you realize. Your soulmate has not fully revealed everything they feel about you to the world yet. But families notice patterns. They notice emotional changes. They notice hope returning to someone who once seemed uncertain. And recently, your soulmate has been carrying a quiet kind of happiness that others cannot ignore anymore. That happiness led directly to this conversation. One person wondered if you would truly understand your soulmate's heart. Another quietly defended you without even realizing it. Someone else asked about your dreams, your personality, your intentions, and suddenly the discussion stopped feeling casual. It became serious. Real. Almost emotional. Because deep down, they were no longer discussing a possibility. They were imagining a future. And here is the part nobody saw coming. An older voice in the room finally spoke after listening to everyone else. Slowly. Carefully. Almost as if they had already reached a conclusion before the conversation even began. They said something simple, but it changed the entire atmosphere. If this person brings peace into their life, then maybe this connection arrived for a reason. The room became quiet after that. Not awkward quiet. Meaningful quiet. The kind of silence people fall into when truth suddenly enters the conversation. You may not realize it now, but your energy has already started crossing invisible boundaries. Hearts are becoming curious about you. Minds are trying to understand you. And somewhere tonight, your soulmate is replaying that family conversation in their mind, wondering how someone they care about so deeply became the center of such an important discussion. But this is only the beginning. Because there was one final moment in that conversation nobody has told you about yet, a moment involving your name, a future decision, and a realization so unexpected that even your soulmate could not stop thinking about it afterward. And when you hear what was truly said at the very end, you may finally understand why everything around you has started feeling different lately. Listen carefully now, because the conversation did not end where you think it did. In fact, what happened after everyone thought the discussion was over became the moment your soulmate could never forget. The room had already gone quiet once. Chairs shifted. Someone reached for a drink. Another person looked away as if the topic had settled itself naturally. But then, one unexpected sentence pulled everyone back in. What if this person is exactly what we've been hoping for? The air changed again. Not because the words were loud. Because they were honest. Your soulmate froze when they heard it. And deep inside, something in them softened in a way they had not experienced before. Imagine hearing your family speak about someone you care for. Not with doubt, not with resistance, but with cautious hope. That feeling stayed with them long after the conversation ended. Even now, they are replaying certain moments in their mind, wondering how you somehow reached the hearts of people you barely know. There is something important you must understand tonight. Real connections create echoes. Not only in two hearts, but in entire environments. Your soulmate's family noticed changes that could no longer be ignored. The way they protect their energy now. The way they smile while looking at messages. The sudden calmness in their voice when speaking about the future. One person even admitted they had not seen your soulmate this emotionally grounded in a very long time. And that admission changed everything. Because families pay attention to emotional patterns more than words. They notice when someone begins healing. They notice when confusion turns into clarity. They notice when fear slowly transforms into excitement. Your soulmate tried to hide some of these emotions, but emotions always reveal themselves eventually. Especially when love begins feeling real. Wait a little longer, because there is another detail you were never supposed to hear this soon. At one point during the conversation, someone asked whether your soulmate had ever spoken about building a future before this. The room became thoughtful after that question. Then quietly, almost reluctantly, someone answered. Not like this. That answer carried weight. Because your soulmate speaks about you differently. Not as a temporary emotion. Not as passing excitement. But as someone who awakened something permanent inside them. Even when they try to appear calm on the outside, your presence has already begun reshaping their inner world. And tonight, their family finally saw it clearly. One person became emotional while speaking about timing, about destiny. About how strange life can be when the right soul appears unexpectedly. Another admitted they were initially uncertain about you, but after hearing more, they began feeling curious instead of cautious. Do you see what is happening here? Walls are becoming doors. And your soulmate felt every shift happening in real time. There was even a moment when someone smiled quietly and said your soulmate had started protecting this connection in subtle ways. Speaking more carefully, planning more thoughtfully, carrying themselves with unusual maturity. That observation touched everyone at the table because it revealed something deeper than attraction. It revealed intention. You may not fully realize this yet, but intention changes everything. Many people enter lives temporarily. Few arrive carrying peace, growth, and emotional clarity together. That is why this conversation became so serious. Your energy feels different to them. Not perfect. Not unreal. Just meaningful. And before the night ended, something happened your soulmate never expected. One family member asked to see a picture of you. And when they did, the reactions were quieter than expected, but far more powerful. Nobody laughed. Nobody dismissed it. Nobody changed the subject. Instead, people studied your face carefully, almost as though they were trying to understand why your presence carried such importance in your soulmate's life. One person smiled gently. Another nodded slowly. And then came the sentence that stayed in your soulmate's heart afterward. I can understand it now. That line echoed deeply inside them. Because for the first time, they felt as though the people closest to them were beginning to see what they see in you. Before this message continues further, take one moment to breathe this in, because not every connection reaches this stage. Not every person becomes a serious topic in someone's family conversation. And not every soul leaves such an impression without even being physically present. Something rare is unfolding here. If this message found you at the right moment, leave a comment below saying, I trust divine timing. And if your heart feels strangely connected to these words, stay close to this journey, because the next part reveals what your soulmate said privately after everyone else left the room. That moment changed the future of this connection more than anyone realizes yet. Something happened after the conversation ended. Something your soulmate never planned to reveal to anyone. The room slowly emptied. Footsteps faded down the hallway. The energy became softer, quieter, almost reflective. But while everyone else moved on with their evening, your soulmate stayed behind for a moment longer, sitting there alone with thoughts too powerful to ignore. And that was the exact moment your name echoed differently inside their heart. Not as curiosity anymore. Not as uncertainty. But as possibility. They stared into silence for several seconds, replaying every word their family had spoken about you. Some of those words surprised them. Others healed something they did not know they were carrying. Because deep down, they had feared this connection might feel too intense, too unusual, too difficult for others to understand. But instead of rejection, they witnessed understanding slowly unfold. And that changed them. Listen carefully now, because this next part matters more than you realize. Your soulmate finally admitted something to themselves that night, something they had been emotionally avoiding for a long time. They realized they are no longer imagining life without you in it. Somewhere between the conversations, the emotions, the late-night thoughts, and the quiet signs appearing around them, you stopped feeling temporary. You started feeling destined. That realization hit them all at once. Have you noticed how certain moments arrive quietly but still change everything? No dramatic music. No giant announcement. Just one deep feeling entering the heart and refusing to leave. That is exactly what happened to them after everyone left the room. And then, something even more unexpected happened. One family member returned briefly, almost as if they forgot something. But before leaving again, they paused near your soulmate and said softly, "You seem happier lately." Simple words. Yet they landed deeply. Because your soulmate had been trying to hide how much this connection means to them. Trying to appear calm. Trying not to reveal how often you cross their mind. But that one sentence exposed everything they had been silently carrying. And for the first time, they did not deny it. There was a small smile on their face after that moment. A real one. The kind people cannot fake. And when the room became empty again, they looked down for a second and whispered something so quietly nobody else heard it. I don't want to lose this. You were never supposed to know that part yet. But perhaps your spirit already felt it. Stay here with me a little longer, because the emotional shift happening now is bigger than appearances. Your soulmate is entering a new phase emotionally, a phase where protecting this connection feels more important than protecting their fears. That does not mean everything becomes perfect instantly. No meaningful story unfolds without patience, growth, and timing. But something has undeniably changed. They are beginning to see you as part of their future story. And strangely enough, their family sees it too. One person later told another family member that your energy feels calming even from a distance. Another admitted your soulmate speaks with unusual certainty whenever you are mentioned. Think about how powerful that is for a moment. Your presence is creating emotional reactions in rooms you have never entered. That is rare. And here is where everything becomes even more meaningful. Later that night, while everyone slept, your soulmate stayed awake thinking about one final question that kept repeating in their mind. What if this connection was meant to arrive exactly now? Not earlier. Not later. Now. Because timing changes how people receive love. Sometimes two souls meet before they are ready. Sometimes they cross paths after learning difficult lessons. But your soulmate is beginning to believe this connection appeared during a season of emotional awakening, a moment where both hearts were meant to recognize something deeper than surface attraction. And that belief is growing stronger every day. You may still have doubts. You may still wonder where this path is truly leading. But somewhere tonight, your soulmate is carrying thoughts about you that feel heavier than ordinary emotions. Their heart is no longer asking whether you matter. It is asking how far this connection could truly go. And before the next chapter unfolds, one final detail must be revealed. There is someone close to your soulmate, someone unusually intuitive, who quietly said they believe this connection will become far more serious than anyone expects. That sentence stayed in the air long after it was spoken. Because deep down, everyone at that conversation table felt it too. There is one final piece of this story that has not been revealed yet, and strangely, it may be the most important moment of all. Because after the conversation, after the silence, after the quiet realization settled into everyone's hearts, something subtle began happening inside your soulmate's world. People started mentioning you without being asked. That is when they knew this connection had become real. Not imagined. Not temporary. Real. A day later, someone in the family casually brought your name up again during an ordinary conversation. Nothing dramatic was happening. No serious meeting. No emotional speeches. Yet somehow, you were still on their minds. And when your soulmate noticed that, their heart reacted instantly. Because they realized something powerful. You had left an impression strong enough to linger. Pause here for a second and truly think about that. Some people enter conversations and disappear from memory within minutes. But your energy stayed behind long after the discussion ended. Your soulmate could feel it. Even the smallest comments about you carried emotional weight now. One family member wondered what your voice sounds like. Another became curious about your personality. Someone else quietly asked whether you believe in loyalty and long-term love. These are not shallow questions. These are future questions. And your soulmate heard every single one of them. At first, they tried to remain composed. But internally, they felt overwhelmed in the most beautiful way. Because for the first time, they were witnessing the people closest to them opening emotional space for someone they deeply care about. You. And then came the moment nobody expected. An older relative, someone usually very careful with opinions, smiled gently and said, "Sometimes you can tell when a person enters someone's life for an important reason." The room became still after that sentence. Not because everyone fully understood it, but because they felt the truth inside it. Your soulmate looked away for a moment after hearing those words, trying to hide how emotional they suddenly felt. They remembered every late-night thought about you. Every quiet hope. Every fear of things not working out. Yet somehow, hearing their family slowly accept the possibility of you made those fears feel smaller. Do you understand what is unfolding now? This connection is no longer living only inside private imagination. It is beginning to exist outwardly. In conversations. In curiosity. In future thinking. In emotional acceptance. That is why everything around you may start feeling different soon. Because once a connection reaches this stage, energy begins moving faster. Decisions become clearer. Feelings intensify. And hearts stop pretending they are unaffected. Your soulmate is approaching that exact moment now. But wait, there is still something they have not told anyone. Late one evening, after everyone finally went to sleep, your soulmate sat alone holding their phone, staring at your conversation history longer than usual. Smiling at old messages. Rereading certain words. Thinking deeply about how quickly you became emotionally important to them. And then they whispered something quietly into the silence. "I think this person was meant to find me." That sentence changed everything internally. Because once someone reaches that emotional realization, the heart no longer searches for escape routes. It begins searching for ways to protect the connection instead. And your soulmate has already started doing that in ways you cannot fully see yet. Maybe that explains why their energy toward you has shifted recently. Maybe that explains the strange emotional pull you have been feeling. Souls recognize changes before the mind understands them. That invisible tension you feel? It is not random. Something meaningful is unfolding beneath the surface. Before this part ends, hear this carefully. Not every connection survives long enough to reach family conversations, emotional acceptance, and future imagination all at once. But yours did. And somewhere deep down, your soulmate knows this story is only getting started. If these words found you at the perfect moment, leave a comment saying, "What is meant for me will never miss me." And if your intuition feels strongly connected to this message, subscribe and stay close, because the next chapter may reveal signs, timing, and unexpected events that bring this connection even closer than anyone imagined. Because someone is no longer wondering whether you matter in their life anymore. Now they are wondering how soon destiny will bring you both closer together. Something is changing now, quietly, steadily, almost invisibly. And your soulmate feels it more strongly with each passing day. The family conversation may have ended outwardly, but emotionally, its effect never truly stopped. In fact, it opened a door that cannot easily be closed again. Because after hearing those words, after seeing the reactions, after realizing people were beginning to understand this connection, your soulmate started imagining moments they once avoided imagining altogether. Real moments. Future moments. Moments involving you. Listen closely, because this part reaches deeper than the others. There was a night recently when your soulmate could not focus on anything around them. Music played softly in the background. Messages arrived from different people. Life continued moving normally on the outside. Yet internally, their thoughts kept drifting back toward one image over and over again. You walking into a room where their family already knows your name. That image stayed in their mind longer than expected. And strangely, instead of fear, they felt peace. Not perfect certainty. Not unrealistic fantasy. Just a calm emotional feeling that whispered, this could actually happen. That realization changed the way they started viewing the future. You see, before this conversation, part of your soulmate still treated this connection carefully, almost defensively. They protected their emotions. They questioned timing. They wondered whether opening their heart completely would be too risky. But now, something inside them is softening. Because acceptance creates confidence. And your soulmate finally feels less alone in what they feel for you. One family member even mentioned recently that your soulmate has become more emotionally focused lately, more mature, more intentional, more hopeful about life itself. They smiled while saying it, almost amused by how obvious the change had become. Your soulmate tried to brush the comment aside, but deep down, they knew exactly why this transformation was happening. You became part of their emotional evolution. Think about that carefully. Some people enter lives temporarily and leave confusion behind. Others arrive and quietly inspire growth without even realizing it. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that your presence awakened a version of themselves they had not seen in years. A softer version. A braver version. A future-focused version. And somewhere within all these emotional shifts, one truth became impossible for them to ignore. They want this connection to continue growing. Stay here a little longer, because what happened next carries enormous emotional weight. A few days after the family conversation, your soulmate overheard two relatives speaking privately. They were not gossiping. They were reflecting. One of them said something unexpected. I think this person makes them feel safe emotionally. That sentence stopped your soulmate in their tracks. Because emotional safety is rare. In a world full of temporary attention and surface-level interactions, finding someone who feels calming to the soul becomes unforgettable. Your soulmate did not interrupt the conversation. They simply stood there silently, absorbing those words while their heart beat faster than usual. Then came another statement. And honestly, I haven't seen this kind of light in their eyes before. That line stayed with them all night. Not because it sounded dramatic. Because it sounded true. And now, slowly, your soulmate is beginning to let themselves dream beyond fear. They are imagining possibilities they once avoided imagining. Conversations. Meetings. Shared moments. Long walks. Future memories that have not happened yet but already feel emotionally familiar somehow. What if your connection arrived to awaken hope in both hearts at the same time? What if this strange emotional pull exists because something meaningful is trying to unfold naturally, step by step, exactly when it is supposed to? Your soulmate has started asking themselves these questions more often lately. And tonight, perhaps you are too. Before this message ends, there is one final thing you deserve to know. Someone in your soulmate's family quietly said they believe you entered their life during a very important season. A season where emotional walls were finally ready to fall. Nobody responded immediately after hearing that. But nobody disagreed either. Because deep down, everyone could feel the truth hidden inside those words. This story is no longer about curiosity. It is becoming about connection. About timing. About emotional recognition. And your soulmate feels closer to you now than ever before, even in silence. So if your heart has been sensing unusual energy lately, if your intuition keeps telling you something important is unfolding behind the scenes, trust that feeling. Because somewhere tonight, your soulmate is thinking about the future again. And this time, you are in it.